Star Wars, PubGee, the triumphant return of Resident Evil. Welcome to the Logitech G Review of the Year. On the face of it, 2017 has been a huge year for games. We've had new entries in some of the biggest franchises in the industry: Call of Duty, Mass Effect, Assassin's Creed, Destiny and Resident Evil. And has it been a vintage year? Well, sort of. It's been tinged with the spilled red wine of regret. As we've received one Star Wars game, another has been cruelly sacrificed to the Sarlacc pit monster. But there are success stories as well. For yet another year, the depth and quality of indie games continues to rise. The Hitman series is now safely in the hands of its developer IO Interactive, and there's been the small matter of PubGee, a game which officially has only just been released, taking a frying pan to the head of the gaming world. In this video, we'll be rounding up the biggest releases of 2017 and looking at how, if at all, the industry has changed. Our first big release of the year, and probably its biggest surprise, was Resident Evil 7. Released on the 24th of January, this grimy reboot brought new purpose to the series. The twisting, sinister Baker House is one of the most detailed and brilliantly realised locations in gaming, and there are just enough nods to classic Resi to make this feel like it's from the same world. And it was around this time that we got the exciting news that Portal developer Kim Swift had been hired by EA to work at Motive Studios. An interesting development, since Motive was working with Visceral on a new, unnamed Star Wars game. We'll come back to that one later, but you probably know how it ends. February was an unusually good month for new games. We had excellent medieval combat game For Honor on the 14th, as well as the enjoyable bone-shattering shooter Sniper Elite 4. Happy Valentine's Day! The 21st saw the release of solid RTS sequel Halo Wars 2, and two superb indies followed that: the unusual atmospheric Stories Untold on the 27th, and vibrant adventure Night in the Woods on the 28th. Critically acclaimed RPG Torment Tides of Numenera was released on the same day. We also got the weird, fascinating news that EA's Peter Moore, the guy that used to get a new tattoo every E3, stepped down as the head of EA Sports to become CEO of Liverpool Football Club. Did he get a tattoo of that? We haven't checked yet. On to March, and we've got Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands on the 7th, which everyone seems to have forgotten about already, and the PC release of the incredible Nier Automata on the 17th. Procedurally generated Weird 'em Up Everything came out on the 21st, alongside the long-awaited Mass Effect Andromeda. We also got the sad news that Hitman developer IO Interactive had been dropped by their publisher Square Enix. More on that in just a bit. And it was around March that the general public became aware of the phenomenon affectionately known as PubGee. PubGee. The early access phase for PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds began on the 23rd of March, originally aiming for a September 2017 release. It sold 20 million copies since, and held a peak concurrent player count of 2 million, making it the big success story of the year. April was surprisingly full. The PC version of Bayonetta came out on the 11th, the Sexy Brutale on the 12th, and three very different releases on the 25th. Long-awaited adventure game Siberia 3, vicious first-person shooter Outlast 2, and the powerful and brilliant What Remains of Edith Finch. The 27th saw the release of the revised, but still very engaging, Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 3. May was slightly lighter, with Arcane's rebooted FPS Prey joining us on the 5th of May, and the wobbly but wonderfully enjoyable Friday the 13th on the 26th. April the 25th also saw the PC release of Vanquish, another Sega action classic to sit alongside Bayonetta. And if you, like me, think this is a perfect incentive for Sega to start porting the Yakuza games to PC, you can listen to me rant about that by clicking the card above. On to June and the biggest gaming event of the year, E3. As well as conferences from Sony, Microsoft, EA, Bethesda and Ubisoft, this was also the second year with a conference dedicated solely to PC gaming, hosted by esports legend Sean Plott. Understandably, the rest of the month was pretty light, with the exhilarating cinematic scrapper Tekken 7 released on the 2nd, and the excellent Stormblood expansion for Final Fantasy XIV on the 20th. And now for some good news. Remember that bit about Square parting ways with IO Interactive? Well, IO Interactive became an independent studio in June, retaining the rights to the revitalised Hitman franchise. It's a proper fairy tale ending for a game about murdering people with toilets. We got the incredible, surprising Hellblade on the 8th of August, and Devolver Digital's fantastic fighting game Absolver on the 29th. We also got the news that BioWare Montreal, the developer of Mass Effect Andromeda, had been absorbed into Motive Studios. This followed the disappointing decision in May to put the Mass Effect series on ice after the rancorous consumer response to the spin-off. That leaves BioWare Austin working on Star Wars: The Old Republic and BioWare Edmonton working on Anthem and the next Dragon Age. And someone somewhere, hopefully, working on a new Knights of the Old Republic game that they haven't told us about. As we reach September, the releases start to come thicker and faster. The 14th gave us the excellent co-op RPG Divinity Original Sin 2, followed the day after by the fantastic Dishonored Death of the Outsider. Visual novel come psychological horror Doki Doki Literature Club arrived on the 22nd, Gigantosaurus RTS sequel Total War Warhammer 2 on the 28th, and Cuphead was finally released on the 29th. October was similarly massive. Forza Motorsport 7 vroomed onto PC on the 3rd, followed by orc-bothering action sequel Middle-earth Shadow of War on the 10th, and the fabulously oozy horror of The Evil Within 2 shambled into our lives on the 13th. And unfortunately, there was more glum news on the 17th of October with the revelation that EA had shut down Visceral Games. With it went our hopes of a linear, story-driven Star Wars game guided by the hand of Uncharted director Amy Hennig. And as you probably know, Visceral Games are the studio behind Dead Space, one of the most grueling and effective horror games ever made, and if you want to know more about how they did it, just click the card above. South Park: The Fractured Butthole was also released on the 17th, followed by 4 of the biggest games of the year. Destiny 2's PC release on the 24th, Assassin's Creed Origins and Wolfenstein 2 on the 27th, and Call of Duty World War II on the 3rd of November. Hard as Nails action RPG Neo came to PC on the 7th, and on the 17th we got Star Wars Battlefront 2. And rounding things off in December, we've had creepy physics game Hello Neighbor on the 8th, and the gorgeous PC release of Okami on the 12th. And finally, there's good old PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, officially released on the 20th of December. It says a lot that in a year of massive sequels and AAA releases, the game that's really captured people's imagination is a mod of a mod based on a Japanese film from 17 years ago. And what's stranger still is that we can expect loads of games in 2018 to mimic it by going down a similar path. Thanks 2017, you've been weird. And thank you for joining us on the Logitech G channel. We look forward to seeing you again next year. Please give us a like if any of your games of the year were in this list. Let us know what your top titles of 2017 were, and subscribe to Logitech G for more videos throughout 2018. Thank you very much for watching.